Who is Anto Wijaya?
I'm pretty much a normal Indonesian young man. I work an ordinary job. I work as a cashier. Special. I'm high school graduate. I born in rural area in Sumatra. My dad is landless farmer, and we have 8 siblings in my family, and I'm the fifth son. And we moved to Palembang, the city, in 2012, I remember. And then I get my education here in Palembang. And after I graduate high school, then I just work an ordinary job and everything until today. That is who I am. But one thing that makes me different than any other Indonesian is that I have this message about morality that I genuinely believe that Indonesian people, they are not fully developed psychologically. So I wrote a book. I wrote psychological book. Although the book itself really similar to Carl Jung thinking, but I'm very confident because all of the knowledge that I get come from myself, which is why I started making a content, because I believe this is necessary to help people develop psychologically in Indonesia. Like the idea of inner child and mask and all of that. I don't read a book. And people like to say that, oh, you watch too much TikTok, you watch too much content. But the problem is, I don't have a phone until I graduate high school. Everything that I have right now is purely come from thinking. Even English speaking is come from thinking. We learn English in Indonesia for 12 years. It is that most people didn't pay attention. I think that is why I am pretty much. I came with a message. The message is clarity and intellectual honesty, psychology, the map of awareness to help Indonesian people or human being in general to develop psychologically. That's what I wanted to do through my content.
When did you wrote your book?
To be honest, it's a journey. I decided that I need to do this after elementary school. I must be like 12 years old. And it's interesting story actually. When I moved from village to city in 4th grade, I got bullied because I come from village. I have a darker skin and so on. Like violence, bullying. And in 6th grade, I just fought back for the first time. And in our graduation, elementary school, I read a poetry in front of everybody, in front of the people who bullying me. It's actually quite famous. It calls Aku. It's really strong poetry to tell people that I want to live 1,000 years. I'm a man to take back my dignity after all of that bullying that happened. That's when I decided that they need help and I'm going to help them. This is how I start my journey to write the book. So the book itself is not, oh, I have a plan, then I want to write a book, then I make a note, like one note. No, it's scattered. Like sometimes I wrote it in my phone, sometimes I wrote it in my school book. In 2025, September, the book is finished. I wrote it all. But interesting story. I got in bike accident and I lost the phone, the only copy of the book. And I don't feel the same spirit to rewrite the book. When I try to rewrite the book, I don't feel that fire anymore. So I just decided, let's make a content. Let's speak to people in general as a human being rather than writing. Because most people, most young men today, they don't read book anymore. They watch video. If they all watch this useless video on the internet, why not? Why can I spread my value? I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm trying to spread a message. That's what I'm trying to do.
You mentioned about your daily life while growing up.
Mm-hmm.
What moments showed you the gap between how things should be versus reality?
So, to be honest, it's a long conversation. It doesn't happen overnight, you know. Uh, so when I in junior high school, I do da'wah, right? So I spend a lot of time giving people's speeches or something like that, telling people what to do, you know, how to do it, and so on and so on. So it's long observation, but the day it's actually snapped is when I in boarding Islamic high school, right? In the first year, I had this girl that I talked to, you know. We might call it a romantic relationship, right? Of honor. And she always telling me the story about how this male teacher in Islamic boarding school behaves, you know. Sometimes they will go to the uh, female student room, you know, without knocking while the female is uncovered pretty much, you know. And it's upsetting me really, you know, because we have female teacher, right? The female teacher should do that. But no, the male teacher doing this. And my friend, who's happened to be a girl, she tells me about all of this story and it makes me angry and I want to, you know, I want to really do something about it, right? But of course, I'm just another student. But one day in Islamic boarding school, the girl asked me to go out. We get some food outside. So it's forbidden. We cannot go outside in Islamic boarding school, but we go outside. So when we go back, uh, to school, the teacher know this and they get angry, right? The male teacher, they get angry and he slapped me. He slapped me. That's when I really get angry, you know. So I fought back pretty much because that's how I've been. Uh, how life has taught me. If someone slapped you, you fought back. You know? From the childhood, that's how I raised. You know? And this teacher, I already upset with him, and he slapped me. You know, for a very stupid reason. I would say we do not do anything. We eat food outside of school. So after we fight, I'm not gonna mention the name of the school, but we fight, and then uh I quit the school. Right? That's when I decided I cannot stay to teach morality through Islam because the Quran system doesn't support real morality, pure morality. You know, pure morality does not come from uh, mosque, does not come from boarding Islamic school. It comes from suffering. You know, when we know the consequence of bad decision, that's where pure morality come from. You know, and I cannot teach this if I stays here in this school, spend my entire time reading the Quran. Perhaps I can teach people verses of the Quran, but I cannot teach them pure morality. You know, because it's easy to say to people that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You know, but pure morality also develop empathy. That's what we lack of. You know, I gave you example before about the prostitution. You know, it's easy to say that, oh, you should become prostitute. But if you talk to the all of these women, most of these women, you know, they are sexually abused when she was a kid or something like that. You know, something happened in their childhood. Uh, that's what shaped their behavior today, right? And yeah, you need to understand all of this. You know, you need to understand all of this to have pure morality. If you just spend your time in the mosque reading the Quran, you don't understand this. You don't develop empathy. You will end up with, you know, stoning people to death because you don't understand empathy. You don't change this prostitute by telling them, you know what, stop being a prostitute or we will stone you. We're not gonna change this. You know, the way that we change this is change the environment, and the only way that we can change the environment, at least from my point of view, is if I being universal, not embedded inside the system, because this system does not teach pure morality anymore. That's what I believe in. You know.
It's very unfortunate to see the examples
Mm.
from people who are in religion, practicing religion, and also teaching religion,
Mm-hmm.
because they're supposed to be teaching the morality and the intellectual honesty.
Yeah.
However, we have these examples from almost all religions, that when there is a corruption in the religious institutions, that breaks people, especially the people from the from the painful, difficult backgrounds.
Yeah.
When they join those religious institutions to get closer to God,
Yeah.
that's really hurting and breaks people and stop trusting the God itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in your bio, make me a man, everything falls into place. 2031.
Yeah.
What does it becoming a man to you?
Right. So, in my opinion, becoming a man is really easy. You know, you become a man when you have agency. You know, females should, in my point of view, a woman doesn't need agency. You know, they follow. A man needs agency. What is agency? Agency is clarity of identity and clarity of purpose. You know where you are, you know where to go. That creates agency, the clarity of identity and clarity of purpose. And that's how we become a man, to develop clarity of identity and clarity of purpose. To create agency. That's what makes us a man. You know, it's pretty simple to be honest. But even that simple thing, people don't know this. People don't have agency. They just follow blindly follow. This is how it's easier to control them. They just follow the internet. They don't have agency. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to achieve in their life. They just follow, right? which is why it's very easy to control. And the people who control them happens to be evil person. If we talk about the superpower and who actually leading them, right? All of these pedophile, they have the power and they control all of these people, and these people lack agency. You know, this is why I feel the responsibility to teach people what agency is. You know, that's
What
one of the
is the
reasons.
definition of agency in your terms?
Yeah, I just explained to you. Agency is when you know where you are, you know where to go.
Agency to you means self-awareness and self goals, future goals.
Yeah, agency comes from you know where you are, you know where to go.
Mm.
That's great agency. The track, yeah, the road, that is agency. Because if you don't have agency, if you don't know where you are, you don't know where to go, and you gain all of this information every day on the internet, you lost. You depressed, you lost. That's what people lack of today.
You often mention suffering in your talks a lot.
Hmm.
What do you mean by suffering? Do you mean accepting the consequence of being honest and being moral? Whatever comes as a consequence, we should accept it.
Hmm. What is suffering is the question. What is suffering? What is suffering? At least in my point of view, I never feel like suffer. Even if I going through pain, I do not suffer. I enjoy the pain. That's how I see life. What is suffering? What is suffering? Are we complaining? You know, I never feel suffering, to be honest. I don't understand suffering. I feel pain, but I enjoy it. That's what built me today. Pain. But I don't suffer. Does that make sense?
Because you often mention that we have to accept suffering. We have to suffer to achieve something.
Oh,
Is that what you mean?
when I said maybe to be a good leader, is that what I to be good leader, right? To be a good leader, then you need to suffer the collective suffering. That's how you become a leader. That's what I'm trying to say in the video. To become a good leader, you need to suffer collective suffering.
You have to take the pain,
Yeah, take the pain of other
take
people.
the pain of other people,
Mm.
and then if you do not have a capacity to bear the pain,
Mm.
you cannot move on. That's what you mean.
In the video, I specifically talk about how to be a leader. Not as a man, I never feel suffering. But as if I'm trying to put myself in a position of leader,
Mm.
then I need to suffer the collective suffering. What people suffer from. That's what I'm uh, trying to learn. So this is why, if you like, for example, if you DM my Instagram and you tell me all of your trauma, I always do this. Ask people trauma. That's how I learn from people's pain. You can ask anybody who follow me. They understand this. If you DM me, you can tell me your trauma, and I learn from that. That's how I absorb people's pain. I call myself Black Hawk. I absorb people's pain. That's how I build gravity toward me. Anyway, that is my theory to build influence, absorb people's pain, to become so dense, it just attracts more people.
What do you mean by 2031?
So in my bio, I mentioned 2031. Everything falls into place, right? And the reason that I say this thing because I always love to play long-term game. And in my point of view, 2031 is the limit year. My message is complete in 2031. In 13 September 2031, my message is complete. And after that, either people believe in me or not, it's up to people. I do my responsibility to talk, to say the truth. We can change this. Here I am. I can change this. I can lead you to change. If people accept me, then let's make the changes. If people do not accept me, then I can say to God, I did my part. That is the 2021, the limit of my message. The message is complete.
Do you mean by this that you will stop preaching or stop educating people by 2031?
In 2031, I will stop trying to lead people, because I feel this responsibility to lead people in Indonesia. They might call me anything what they want, right? They might call me, oh, you just watch too much movie or anything. It's up to them. But for me, I feel the responsibility to lead people. To lead people. If they don't accept me, it's not in my control. I can just say to God, I did my part. That's the only thing I care about.
What will happen after 2031?
I live a normal life. I live a normal life. I mentioned in my Instagram, I just want to live a normal life. I want to build a small farm, have a little family, you know, with my girlfriend, marry her, and so on, and live a simple life. That's what I want to do, pretty much. You know,
You put intellectual honesty and clarity right in the center of everything. What it looks like in real life
intellectual honesty.
for you.
So, in my point of view, intellectual honesty is the best decision, you know, that come from understanding of different perspective. Like I mentioned that you need clarity first. Clarity. If you see a problem, you need clarity, which means you see the problem from different perspective. You know, like let's say we talk about morality, and there is Christian perspective, Islam perspective, Hindu perspective. We need to know all of this before you make intellectual decision. You, if you, if your entire life you only understand Islamic perspective,
Mm.
which means you don't have yet a clarity. You don't yet have clarity, which means you cannot make the best intellectual decision. In my point of view, intellectual honesty come from clarity. If you don't have clarity, you cannot intellectually honest. You know, and if you're not intellectually honest, you become hypocrite, right? Which is the problem in Indonesia. We have a lot of hypocrites. They say they're Muslim, but what they're doing? Right? They're not Muslim. Most of them act like Western, right? They wearing a hijab, but having sex on a Sunday, it's normal now in Indonesia. And that's one of my concerns, which is hypocritical behavior that happens because the lack of intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty happens because the lack of clarity. Does that make sense?
Is there any other example of daily life you can bring for clarity and intellectual honesty? Because you have given a very vivid example of not having a clarity and honesty
Mm.
in Indonesian culture right now.
Mm.
Is there any other example
Is there any other example of intellectual honesty?
for you? Yeah.
Um,
Or intellectual honesty or clarity in daily life? You give an example of.
well, to be honest, the reason that I feel this responsibility to spread the message of clarity and intellectual honesty is because I know it's rare. You know, I know it's rare. There is a small percentage of people who actually understand that as a human being, we need clarity and intellectual honesty to make the perfect world. Even if the idea of perfect world doesn't exist, even if cannot possible, we need to teach people. At least we try. I would say I'm trying to teach people the law of God. Clarity and intellectual honesty. Although I don't want to go to heaven, I just teach them the law of God, clarity and intellectual honesty.
Why you don't want to go to heaven?
I mentioned to you before, we have a lot of people that will end up in hell. If you're Christian, there's a billion of people who go to hell. If you're Muslim, there's a billion of people who go to hell. I feel, I feel it's unfair. You know, in my point of view, I rather go with the damned people, with the broken people, because some of these people, I believe, although it's easy for people to say, like for example, If I still doing da'wah, still calling people to Islam, there's a lot of people who never heard of Islam. Even if they heard of Islam, they are surrounded by environment that do not believe in Islam. It's really hard to, you know, I would say, asking these people to join Islam. If I, like, for example, if I'm doing da'wah, like all of these guys doing in America, I go to America, I spread the message of Islam. Now I feel the responsibility because before perhaps they never heard the message of Islam. Now they heard message of Islam because all their psychological belonging, they want to stay in their religion. Now I feel like I'm doing a mistake. Why I come here to America? They never heard of Islam before. I shouldn't come here, They can go to heaven if I never spread the message of Islam. I just think it doesn't make any sense.
Do you think there is an issue with the preaching itself, dawah? Because we cannot convince people to convert, right?
Exactly, because yeah, I understand that most people they want to belong in something. When we try to spread Islam, we seeking their identity, and people want to keep their identity, and it is very psychological. And I understand their feeling. It feels like if I'm trying to, if I believe that I will go to heaven, I'm the truth. I hold the truth. I hold Islam. I hold the truth, and these people will go to hell. I will create this mentality where I believe I'm superior than these people. And I don't like that mindset. Does that make sense?
That means that whoever comes to us and tell us and give us the ultimate guarantee of heaven,
Mm-hmm.
that's an illusion. That's a lie. Because God has not given guarantee.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
He has not guaranteed. However, he has mentioned in various books, we have examples,
Mm.
what to do and what not to do, what is moral and what is not. However, he has mentioned the signs of people who will be in heaven and the signs of people who will be in hell,
Mm.
but he has not guaranteed anybody. A person who is preaching the religion, sitting in any religious mosque, church, or synagogue or anywhere, he doesn't have authority
Mm.
to give a certificate to anybody.
Yeah.
Do you agree with it?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think there is a problem with them, not not with people?
Yeah. It doesn't matter where the problem is laid, you know. Whose problem is it? I feel like it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
The thing is, if we look at reality honestly, there will be a people that go to hell. There will be people that go to hell.
Yeah.
It will happen if you believe in religion. Doesn't matter if it's Christian or if it's Islam. And you mentioned there is no guarantee of people's going to heaven. I agree, but that is Islamic teaching. In Christian teaching, it's different. People will go to heaven when they accept Jesus Christ. So it's truth versus truth. No one will win. Truth versus truth. No one will win. Yeah, because I know you might say, well, the Christian is not the truth, but for them, it is the truth. It's their entire life. It's really hard, to shake people identity, to change people identity. It's really hard. You really need to be the perfect. You need to be Jesus to change people identity. Yeah, and I found it impossible that all of these people that go to America doing that work has the same quality as Jesus. In fact, there's a lot of propaganda Middle Eastern going to Europe, they cause all of this chaos and everything, right? It's really hard if you think about it to spread the message of Islam.
Was there any moment in life where you decided that I'm done with anything less than full honesty. I have to be fully honest, and I'm done. I cannot do anything. I cannot be. hypocrite anymore. I cannot be dishonest anymore.
Mhm.
What was that moment? Is it the example of that boarding school, or is there any other moment?
So in my mind, I never change. Since I was a kid, I never change. My knowledge is changing, but I'll never change in terms of my inner drive, and my inner value that I believe in. I never change pretty much. When I when I'm a Muslim, I still believe that I hold clarity and intellectual honesty. When I'm not yet a Muslim, I still believe that I hold clarity and intellectual honesty. I'll never change. I will always this person. You know. So no, there is no moment where I just decided I need to be intellectually honest. There is no moment. I believe I am intellectually honest from the start.
You use word arta,
Arkata.
arkata a
Uh-huh.
lot.
Yeah, yeah.
What does it mean?
So if you aware of Carl Jung writing, right? We have this mask that we use to socialize, right? And yeah, I create my own character pretty much. I mentioned when I got bullied in elementary school, I need to be the strong person. I need to take lead. I need to stand in front of everybody and recite a poetry and tell people what to do, what not to do. And the way I'm doing that is protect this inner child that's been hurt by all of these people and be uh, the stronger version of me. And one of them is Arkata. Yeah. Arkata is the part of awareness, I would say, that deal with morality and religion. If you understand psychology, you understand this, like higher self, higher self, that dealing with morality and empathy and all, and not empathy, morality, the truth, dealing with the truth. That is Arkata. And also symbolically, I mentioned Arkata is like Lucifer, but not like Lucifer,
Mm.
because symbolically, yeah, there is. It's hard to explain this thing, but we have a good force, we have bad force, like we have uh evil force, we have a good force, and Arkata in the middle, clarity and intellectual honesty. Yeah,
Is it about fighting hypocritical system of religion and society and culture?
yeah, yeah. That is one function of Arkata, because like I mentioned, it's mask. It's how I build myself, and yeah, that is one of the uh things that Arkata deal with, which is morality, religion, and all of this, hypocritical behavior, identity, and all of that stuff.
Where did this first came from? When did you drive this term personally?
Wow, it's a complex story. So when I recite the poetry, I create this comic book, right? And in the comic book, it's the first mask that I use. It calls Captain, the leader, Captain. The purpose of Captain is to be stronger than everybody, to be smarter than everybody. And in junior high school, I achieved that. And after I achieve it, I'm the smartest. I'm doing this. I'm doing it. I feel that emptiness. It doesn't feel enough. And then my higher self, Arkata, appear in my mind. That's how it happens. When when you question about what is God, what is this reality is all about, what is the truth, after you gain all of this achievement, you start asking the higher question. That's when the Arkata appear. I would say it's in third grade junior high school, I believe. Do you relate to this, by the way? Yeah, I think you relate to this, but in your own language, I would say.
I would try to call it higher self.
Yeah,
I would call it our conscious is our higher self,
yeah, yeah.
the best version of, which always teaches us the morality and honesty, truthfulness, and all duties. And it's like an inner voice. And I believe that has a very important role in someone's life. If we keep repeating the bad things and we keep silencing that voice, that's, I think, the spiritual death of a person.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the spiritual death of a person. If we silence that voice completely, we are just the walking dead.
Yeah, but do you agree that actually a lot of people don't have this higher self? Yeah, they never achieve this kind of awareness, which is one of the problem and underdeveloped. I call it psychological underdeveloped.
In our society, where a lot of these topics are very sensitive and rebellious,
Yeah, yeah.
right? How do you decide to, like, what to say in public and what to keep it private? In our society, things are not as simple,
Yeah, yeah.
especially in the current society.
Mm. Especially in Indonesia, the thing that I talk about, sometimes really dangerous. If we look at the past, like for example, I mentioned a lot about PKI. Yeah, it's kind of dangerous, but there is a reason why I speak English. Yeah? Because I create a distance, so it feels like I'm not part of society. I know that people say, "Oh, it doesn't important." It is important because people outside of the country can say the things that people cannot say in Bahasa. You know, because in Bahasa, maybe I can influence people. But in English, I can influence people, but a very small percentage, and also most of them is foreigner. That's how I control uh, the consequence of my speech. But of course, there will be a moment where I speak in Bahasa, but I want to make it clear that I'm not here try to make chaos because we have other people before in Indonesia who try to make chaos. Yeah.
And how does starting with the intellectual honesty and clarity become the foundation of everything for you? And how does it become a foundation for your message? You made it as a foundation of your message, right?
Mhm. So after elementary school, I decided to be the strongest, the smartest, and so on and so on. It creates the need to learn everything, right? To know everything. That's how we achieve clarity, by the way. To learn every perspective, religion, morality, and so on. Politics sometimes. Uh, yeah, I think if you ask, like when I decided clarity and intellectual honesty as the base, as the foundation of my message, I think after elementary school, I tried to build clarity. Yeah. And then after I maybe second grade in high school, I then found another value that we need to have as a human being, which is intellectual honesty. I have clarity now. What is the next move? Intellectual honesty. What is the best decision that we can do in reality based on our understanding? That is intellectual honesty. Does that make sense?
You shocked me when I first came. I mean, I'm meeting Indonesians for more than 10 years already,
Mm-hmm.
but you surprised me a lot. Uh, and that taught me a lesson. If we believe in something, we must have that courage.
Yeah,
Uh, and you have given some example of that courage. Standing up, standing on that truth and that intellectual honesty comes from that clarity itself.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because confusion is one of the chaos, and the confusion is created by, you know, immoral mm,
Yeah.
beliefs. You know, if there is a confusion, people can easily be manipulated. People can easily be controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, if you have anything else to say for this, or we can continue later.
No, I think I'm done. We can.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you very much for the opportunity, I would say. To have somebody in front of me and to talk about my message is really interesting. It's the first time that I talk to somebody, in front of camera about my message. Although I speak to my friend before about what I'm trying to achieve, but they just dismiss me. Yeah. What are you doing? You're so delusional. Even my girlfriend at the time said, "What are you doing? Stop it." And to have someone for the first time actually interested in my message is good enough, which means there is possibility that it could work out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.